What's up, guys? Good morning. Um, Thank you for tuning in. And today, we're going to be talking about communication. We're going to talk about um, expressive communication. We're going to talk about um, learned communication. We're going to talk about energy attachments. And we're going to talk about how to disassociate from negative energy attachments. And I think we can definitely integrate communication and energy attachments with forms of communication. What created the space for me to talk about this subject is, you know, spirit is amazing, and I am a twin flame. I have been on a spiritual journey for a long time. I believe my journey started around 2000 and I want to say maybe 2007. Um, and I was just completely awakened. I feel like in 2007 for that time. But now, as I grow, I just feel like I realized that my opener. I'm sorry. I realized that um, I had so much more learning to do. And if you guys always wondering, I'm always like, I I just feel good doing the videos, doing like the morning where I'm like about to eat and I'm at the table, because before I do everything, until my mind is like really clear and I'm not like all over the place, like as I usually am as a Gemini. You know what I'm saying? Like Geminis have to be doing like so many things at one time. Gemini be my moon sign, has to be doing so many things at one time. And if you can see my table, you understand. Like they have to be doing so many things at one time to feel like they're actually doing something. And like that's me all day long. Um so what made me like choose this subject is because communication issues have been a great factor in my life for years. I'm talking about, man, since I was like in grade school. Like when you start becoming aware of like your family and communicating differently with your friends and stuff like that. And I realized um, around, I guess, the third grade that uh, my environment was problematic when it came down. I mean, of course, I'm sensitive. I'm an empath. I'm this and this, and some people may have dealt with the situation a little differently than I did, but it truly affected me. Like I mean, it truly affected me, and it still does to a certain extent. But I have really control over how I allow it to affect me. Because with energy, you have to really just put up blocks, or you just have to find peace within yourself, in the midst of the chaos. So like I said, in third grade I realized that uh the communication in the house wasn't satisfactory. It wasn't peaceful. And we really didn't have uh cordial dialogue within the house. It was almost as if we only spoke when there was a problem, and it just seems like there was always a problem. Not between like the children, but between the parents. So in actuality, the children actually suffered because the parents had like a terrible communication, a just you know the relationship wasn't harmonious at all. So the kids suffered. And this brings a point to maybe if there are any parents out there that is going to be directed to this video, because spirit works in many ways. Um, if you're having problems with your spouse, like, and you find yourself being overly worried about your spouse, please take in effect, and if you have children, please take in effect that even though the situation is not about your kids are going to still be affected by the lack of attention, the lack of communication, the type of communication, the arguing, the yelling, the screaming, the environment, the environment, and just the lack of being able to connect, with their parents on one, a communicative level, and two, on a really sensual, you know, level with either your mother and daughter, your mother and your son, like, and so it's really very, very important to know that your issues also affect your children, and to be cognizant of that. All right. Um. So, you know, last night was the Aries new moon, and I'm very sensitive to the energies, and Spirit has been taking me through, a lot of revelation as of late. You know, about certain things in my life. It's like you just start to see and to become aware of certain habits and patterns that cause um, havoc, or that hinders your growth in your relationships. And so Spirit kind of like makes you aware of those things, that so that you may change, and so that you may grow, and so that you can have harmony and harmonious relationships. So that I'm very thankful for that. And communication came up last night in regards to the new moon. So this is a new moon revelation, not only for myself but for others. So being in that environment, of course, you as a child, you kind of like become what your parents are. You learn from them. They teach you. You learn from them. You even learn the things that they unconsciously teach you. Which they were unconsciously taught by their parents. And so I was taught that mode of communication, and I hated it. Like, I hated it. I despised, being in the environment of such communication. It never really agreed with me. And so, during the time, it's like, you don't really, it's not really present in your mind about, man, it's not really present in your mind that you have attached to those energy patterns of communication, until whenever I feel like I want you to be aware of it, because it's like I knew the communication was terrible, but I didn't know, my communication was terrible until I got in the relationship, with my twin, and I didn't know, like, it was just like, I don't like the way you're speaking to me, I don't like the way you talk to me, and everything like that, and I really didn't understand, like, she brought the awareness to my life about the way that I was communicating. And what's crazy is, what's amazing though, and crazy at the same time, is just God placed me back in the environment with my parents as an adult, to really learn, to really learn and observe, so that I can make the changes, a lot of changes, not just with communication, but, with the dynamic of relationships, with, how, just really separating and detaching from those energy patterns, and just realizing that when I chose my parents, because I do, like, as a metaphysicist, Like they really like we learn. You can learn and you can believe that, before you incarnated here on earth, you decided on the parents, especially if you're a light worker or a healer or a shaman or something like that. We kind of chose our parents so that we can learn, what we need to learn, to be better and to be placed in the opposing environment so that we can grow spiritually and with knowledge of ourselves. So when I came, I mean, like, I I made a big one, man. I chose like everything that is opposite of myself. I was just like, yo, I'm just gonna go head first in and golly, you know. Um, but I've been very grateful uh, to move back home. Um, and when I first got here, I was like, man, I'm dying. Like, I mean, I'm an adult. I'm living with my parents, again, and I'm back to the place to where I never really wanted to be in the first place, and so it was psychological, it was mental disturbances, it was emotional disturbances for me. I mean, I just felt like I was just at the end of the world. I was just like, man, how am I going to do this? um but over time, all of a sudden it just got easier, especially within like the past maybe year, and more so within the past 7 months. Everything began to come alive to me. And so being back in the environment coming kind of gave me the opportunity to detach from old energy habits and from their way of living. I think it's very important for everyone to, you know, uh, reflect on their past and maybe, get a sheet of paper and write down the pros and the cons of your adolescent life, with your parents, and to decide what you want to hold on to and what you don't, and cut the cord to what you don't. Um, cut the cord of all the negative energy patterns that you really disliked about your environment or your family or whatever, and it's fine, it's okay, like, to do that. There are certain things about one side of my family that I just really don't like, you know and I've just recently come into agreement that it's okay, and that if it doesn't, if it doesn't cause harmony, or if it causes disruptions, discontent in my life, then it has to go. So I think that is good to just you know really take account of you know what you don't like and what you do, to become your best self. um I want to talk about uh negative communication. I want to talk about um how to uh you know it's crazy because I didn't really think this out. I'm sitting here realizing that spirit just came up on me and was just like, today is the day we're going to speak about communication. And so here I am, which I feel like I should have wrote down a list. And I usually have like a pen and a pad with me for inspirational reasons because things just come to my mind, but today I don't. So we're going to roll with this. um you know when we're speaking, you know uh It's not where I want to start. I want to start by saying this. Whatever you feel within yourself um, for that person uh, is going to be how you communicate with that person. Because really and truly, feelings don't lie. You know, like the way you feel for somebody, that energy that you hold for them, you can't really hide it. You know, have you ever had someone that you really just truly disliked and like you couldn't really hold a like uh, communication with them, like a real communication, reciprocal dialogue with them? You know, just like, what's up? Or, you know, you didn't even speak. You just nodded your head a little bit, you know, or you just, another example would be speaking to someone that you truly love, you know, and the difference between the two. You know, speaking with your best friend or speaking with someone that you just met or something like that, you know, there's just different modes of communication. And it's all about how you feel within yourself about that person. So if there's any, you know, anger or resentment, it's ultimately going to poison the communication you have with that person. It's going to poison the energy that's being shared between that person, because, you know, if I'm coming at you in an angry way, then it's most likely, you know, if you're not really you know, spiritually uh, um, grounded or spiritually fasted in your principle, then it's most likely that you're going to return with that same amount of anger, you know, because it's being projected towards you. So whatever, basically, if I'm projecting you with love, it's most likely, most indefinitely, that you should return in love. Like if I'm coming to you in anger, that's why then you should return in anger. That's why, unless, like I said, unless you're really grounded in spiritual principle and that you have reached a point of self mastery, then it's kind of like, you know, you can mediate the situation and control your emotions and kind of, you know, dissipate the anger that's coming from the individual. And I think that's where you reach a point of self mastery, and that's highly sought today in these ages, for you to have that type of control. But to know that if you know, if you see fights start, animals, and I've thought about this, wild animals attack. We're going to talk about those two because it's kind of like that ability to reciprocate on, you know, a psychic level, energy level. Because, you know, if you watch wild animals, say if you, let's say you watch a lion and a human being. You know, the human being comes across this lion in the wild, and you know the lion is roaring, and you know it's looking like it's gonna attack, but the man or the woman remains calm. You know, it remains calm, like it remains calm in a, you know, non-aggressive, non-threatened type way. You know, and it's almost as if the animal like calms itself down almost. You know, that's why, you know, some people say when you see different animals, just play dead and surrender, you know, because it's not aggression versus aggression at that time, because usually, you know, when people are being attacked, it's aggression versus aggression versus aggression. You know what I'm saying? Like a fight cannot occur if a person is you know, is in a positive heightened state. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, think about you just walking up to Gandhi and just punching him in the face. You know? Um, so make sure that you've cleared yourself, you know, on your part of the negativity. Um, First, to improve the communication, we need to talk about the real problem, so that we can clear the blockages that we have with each other, um, you know, psychologically. And then we can come from a place of love and like have a deepened sense of communication. So, one, be honest with yourself about what the problem is, between you and the person that you're communicating with. Communicate what it is that, have hurt you in the past. Communicate what it is that you feel for that person, but why? You know what I'm saying? Like, if, your husband cheated on you and now you have like this resentment in your heart and you can't trust him, and y'all can't really connect anymore because you're holding this in your heart and you're blocked, and you're dealing with him every day, and now he's blocked his heart because he doesn't like the type of energy that is coming off of you. And so the communication has now about faced, y'all backs are to each other. And so in order to turn that around and find a harmonious place, or to even commence on the journey of bringing harmony back into the relationship, we need to be honest with ourselves about what we're fighting with. We need to be honest about what we're dealing with, how that person hurt us, and not just how that person hurt us, but why, and see if there's truth in it. And if that is, then we can make the necessary adjustments. But truth has to come out, and those blockages have to be cleared in order to interact, with uh, loving, harmonious dialogue. Um, what I notice, especially, with my family, is, with the one side of my family, is there's always trust issues. There's trust issues. There's pride, and I just really feel that there's a lot of energy patterns from way way back. Like when they talk about those, those curses, is not really a curse. Is energy holds that have been so deeply ingrained, for 50 to 100 years, or more than that, for 100 to 200 years. And it's like now it's kind of become a part of who they are. But I'm glad that God has blessed me. I'm really, really glad that God has blessed me with the awareness, to pinpoint, the areas of pride, the areas of fear, the areas of past resentment, the areas of hurt, and to say, okay, we need to confront that. You know what I'm saying? We need to confront that energy pattern, and it's stopping here. Like it's gonna stop here, because I'm aware of it, and I'm aware of the consequences of it. I'm aware of how it causes dilemma in life situations, and I no longer desire, to have that hold on me. And so, um, it's about confronting what it is, knowing what it is, and being authentic within yourself. Um, So it's almost as if, our parents aren't really our parents. Our parents are really like they're our parents in the mode that they birthed us. But our parents are really our great grandparents. Our parents are really the people that raised them, really. And if you can just take a look back at your grandparents and how your grandparents communicate and how their marriage and their relationship is and how they raise their children. I mean, it's you will see your grandparents and your parents in their patterns. And so I don't want like I'm going to carry on something new with myself and with my family. You know, I'm going to be authentic in knowing, first knowing who I am and what I vibe with and what's harmonious to me, and I want the I want harmonious relationships with myself, with my children, with my wife, with my family, with my friends. And I don't want to come from a place of fear. I want to let's not even go what we don't want to do. I'm going to come from a place of love, from a place of generosity, from a place of authenticity, from a place of spirituality, of light and love, and ultimately an open place, a place of awareness and honoring a place of namaste, a place of I honor the spiritual in you, and I would like that to be honored back within me. Um, so energy patterns, again, energy patterns can be uh, seen by the foods that is the type of foods that we eat, the type of foods that your grandmother, your mom is going to cook the same food that your grandmother cooked. It is like your family is going to eat the same foods that your grandmother cooked, and your grandmother's going to eat the same foods that her mom cooked, and then her mom's going to eat this like it. Those are energy patterns. It's not like people have gone out and tried different foods, and they're like, oh, well, I'm gonna cook something about this, and then that rarely happens. Those energy patterns are usually carried down from generation to generation, and again, it stops here. I don't eat the same foods as my family. Um, I have a healthier diet. I'm very thankful for that. And it's, even though I've been here for 2 years, it's, my family still are in their same energy patterns, being that I am a health professional. Being that I am a health professional, being that I eat organic, healthy fruits, vegetables. I very, very rarely eat rice unless I'm really trying to gain muscle. And usually, I've found many ways not to include white rice into my diets. And it's sugars and eggs and meats and all of that stuff like that. And I'm trying, as I'm here as an example, but the energy patterns are so strong that it's almost imperative for them to, it's almost like impossible for them to change. Um, and so I don't have anything to do with that. I'm not here to force my way on people. I'm just here to share my knowledge. Um, so energy patterns. That's what I'm saying. Energy patterns, as far as I'm gonna go, as far as saying that um, people usually say obesity is hereditary. No. Scientists can do all the research that they want to do uh, about obesity, um, or about chronic illness. I feel that there's a small percentage of people that are suffering with um, um, diseases due to uh, genealogy. Because as a metaphysician, I truly believe that illnesses are stemmed from energy patterns, and which are repetitive thoughts and psychological trauma. Um, and so when people as an energy pattern, we're using obesity. When people say obesity is hereditary, I say that obesity is learned. Okay. Usually, okay, if the mother or the father is obese, the child is going to be obese, because what's making the parent obese, and whatever the parent is teaching the child. So of course, I mean, they're eating the same foods, they're eating the same amount of foods, they're learning, the amount of foods what to eat. So basically, you're gonna have a family that is obese until you have someone that breaks that cycle. Energy patterns, energy patterns. Fathers beating on their mothers, their sons beating on their wives, the grandparent beat on it's so on and so on. Energy patterns. The grandfather having psychological issues, the son having psychological issues, and the son having psychological issues. Energy patterns, learned behavior. Granted, some people have deficiencies, and which cause psychological problems because of nutrient deficiencies, but most of the time it's learned behavior, energy patterns, right? So let's move on. How can we've already talked about how we can change the modes of communication by being aware, by writing down the list of what it is that you have, you no longer want to hold in your past, you no longer want to hold on to as you step into your future, and what you would like to just carry with you into your future. Clearing yourself of any hatred or resentment that you have for the person that you're trying to communicate with, and being honest without yelling and screaming, and coming from a place of compassion. So you have to find, and be honest with yourself and know why you feel like this for that person, even if you have to write it down and communicate to them about it. And if that other person that you're trying to communicate with is coming from that same place of love and that same place of honesty and really want things to work, then the communication can grow to be harmonious. But usually you need a mediator to really watch the flow of how the communication is. And I would be gladly to help anyone out there that's in need of such assistance. Being authentic with yourself is also another mode, and we've covered this, and I just want to just cover it a little bit more. Being authentic with yourself is also another mode of detaching from old energy habits, of really getting to know who you are, of really exploring who you are, of really, stepping outside of the original, normal, everyday things that your family is used to doing, trying new foods, trying new activities, just really wanting to be your best self, and really wanting to, be your healthiest self. Because I noticed that some families aren't really conscious of healthy and unhealthy eating, healthy and unhealthy living, Some families very rarely go outside of their circle or outside of their homes. And so kind of you just have to be present and have to say, okay, I like this and I don't like this, and make the changes. And I think that's the start of really being authentic and really, living the life that you really want to live, and communicating in the modes that you really want to communicate, and having harmonious dialogue, but really getting to know yourself, and not really following, the hereditary energy patterns of your past. And I think it's time for a lot of families to break that chain of energy patterns that's been happening for hundreds of years. And if it's you, and if you need assistance on it, you can email me at evolvingconscious@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at evolvingconscious. Light of the new earth. Um, I'm pretty soon about to open up a Facebook page for Evolving Conscious, where I'm going to post these daily videos and also be able to, respond back to anyone. I believe you can still do this on YouTube as a live. I hope this helped. I hope this helped in many ways. And I mean, communication is very important, guys. And the way that we communicate, the place that we communicate from, is just as important as the words that we use. You can know the dictionary inside out, but if you're coming from a place of anger, then there's really ineffective way to communicate. So we're really looking for effective ways to communicate, and honoring of two people of shared communication, reciprocation, reciprocity. So I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I will see you soon. Sayonara.